Good evening, everyone. How are you? Thank you very much for joining me. Sorry about the short delay there. I literally didn't realize the time, just squirreling away on the laptop. So here we are this evening. We are talking this evening about the Stratum Corneum. So I'm very, very excited about this series. It's a little bit of a development phase that we're going through, so any feedback will be welcome. But more than anything, we just want to kind of introduce to you the science behind the skin in order for you to make decisions on the products and the treatments and the options that you provide to your clients, and of course for yourself as well. It's really important to me to kind of avoid training that is brand specific, because I've been through that myself, and for me it's more about the education behind what's going on underneath that will help give you good grounding for decisions on the treatments that you're going to choose for your clients and patients as well. So without further ado, let's carry on for the evening. So you're going to be with me for about 45 minutes ish. It depends on how many questions people might have, which are welcomed. If I could ask them to go into the Q&A section, that will be fantastic and much easier for me to have a little look through over at the end as well. If you want to pop anything in the chat, then please do talk to one another about this, and obviously, try and network a little bit. That's always good as well. But yeah, Q&A in the Q&A box for me. If there's something I don't know, which may happen because I don't know everything, who does, then I will obviously look to find out in the best way and the quickest way possible for you. Lastly, please don't forget to tag us in your attendance this evening. So because this is fairly new, there's quite a lot of people that may not know that it's that it's going to be here, and we're here for the next 7 or 8 weeks every Wednesday. So it'd be really, really good if you can share with other people in the industry, friends, and people that may obviously benefit from this as well. So please do that, and we'd love to kind of see what you're up to when you're watching this. Are you having your tea? Am I on the big screen? What's happening? Where are we? So please do tag both myself and Shop Beautiful in. That would be amazing. So without further ado, let's carry on. It's been a little while since I've done a webinar. I'm a little bit rusty. I'm like, what does that button do? So here we are. So hello, Skin Geeks. That's the reason why you are here this evening. It's a lovely day outside here in Derbyshire, which is where I am. But I've chose to be here with you guys to give you some more information on the Stratum Corneum. That's where we're starting. So we're obviously naturally going to start from the outside and work our way in, right? But we will obviously be referring to this in the science nature, but if there's anything you don't understand, that's perfectly fine as well. Just ask away for me and I'll do my best to answer. Again, I think it's important for me to note here, I'm not here because I know everything. I'm here because I want to share with you both my own journey, the experience that I'm having and have with my clients. A little bit about me is going to come in a moment. I'm just going to introduce myself and who I am, because you might be, who is this woman that's talking to me? But over the next 7 weeks, what I hope you are going to get out of this is just naturally that refreshment and that revision on the anatomy of the skin. More than anything, I would like you to understand implications of treatment and how that's going to implicate in each layer. By learning about the layers of the skin, and we know how the nature of the products that we're thinking about work, how is that going to integrate and make a difference to our clients? That's what's important to me. Discover confidence in your treatment options and product choices from the Shop Beautiful range as well, because it is, there's so many things to choose from. How, what, where, and why we choose is really important. And obviously having that background knowledge is even more so, and that's why we're here. So here is me. This was at the weekend with my Shop Beautiful water bottle, which I have this evening as well on trend. You can see there. This was around Carsington. So I actually live in Derbyshire in the East Midlands. You can probably tell from the accent. And I'm a bit of a health freak at the minute. And this was me walking 8 miles in 2 hours on Sunday, which was fantastic, with my SPF on, out in the sunshine, which I highly recommend. My background is dentistry. I'm actually a dental therapist, dental hygienist. Pre to that, I was a dental nurse, and pre to that, I was a beauty therapist. So it's kind of always been interlinked. My company is now called Skin Smile Success because I do all of the above. So I help create beautiful skin, beautiful smiles, and I'm also a trainer as well. So all very exciting. Again, I'm not here because I know everything. I'm here because I have been on my own journey with my own clients and still learning things. This year, I've just started my master's in cosmetic medicine, or postgrad diploma, and then moving on to masters because I'm mental. But that's what I was doing, busy literally on here before I realised it was 7 o'clock. So in a little world of skin, because I am the ultimate skin geek predominantly. So let's start with the functions of normal skin. As always, those of you that have seen my webinars before will probably recognize this slide and hopefully be able to ream some of it off. That's the idea. Repetition is key. The skin, when it functions properly, is acting as a mechanical barrier. It is a chemical barrier, and it's going to prevent moisture loss. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about these overlapping cells, these intracellular lipids, how, what, where, and why they work. We want to minimize that loss of water. We're going to refer to that today as transepidermal water loss. And we're going to learn how this first layer, the stratum corneum, helps with that. We're going to how does it defend against microorganisms? Because ultimately, the main function of the stratum corneum is the primary function in one way, because it's there for protection. It's the ultimate protective part of the skin. It's an immunological barrier, an endocrine organ within itself. So we'll learn a little bit more about this when we go deeper into the skin. We understand how it produces its own vitamin D under UV light as well. And how it protects with melanin. So this is all going to come as the weeks go ahead, and you probably already know this, which is amazing. But it's just to refresh on that. So I'm not here to teach anybody to suck eggs. It's a case of okay, you know, every day is a school day. Maybe you'll pick something else from this as well. Thermoregulation, again, we're going to get onto that a little bit more as we go through the deeper layers as well. And the fact that it's a sensory organ, again, we're going to work our way through this because we could talk about this for weeks on end, okay, as we are. So we're going to start with the stratum corneum. So this is ultimately the layer between you and the external environment. So I'd just like to take a minute for you guys, and this is where it goes quiet in the room. Tell me about some extrinsic impact that we can have from the skin. So, you know, when we talk about the environment, what am I talking about? What could we, I mean, there's some on the picture already that you can see. So what are we talking about when we're thinking of extrinsic factors that are going to affect the skin? So there's a few coming in, that's always good. Yeah, thank you, Deborah. We've got the sun. Sophia has said the sun. Somebody said stress. Absolutely, yeah. So that's more of an intrinsic factor, Deborah, but obviously we could argue we're going to get skin stress from other extrinsic factors as well. So I understand why you're saying that. Pollution, yeah, absolutely. Heating, pollution, yeah, perfect. So some really good answers coming in here. The cold, yeah, absolutely. So extremes of temperature. Environmental triggers, ultimately air conditioning, thank you, Anne. So these environmental triggers that are impacting the skin from an extrinsic point of view, from the external side. From an intrinsic point of view, we're going to think of things like hormones. Again, stress, that's a good one to think of. Primarily hormones is huge impact. And again, maybe we'll get time to talk about this as the skin science series goes on. And because I'm kind of creating it as we go along, so to speak, listen to you guys tell me these things will help me build it into something even better for you as well. So please do feedback to us. So the stratum corneum is that layer between you and the environment. So it's a pretty important one to consider. Intrinsic, extrinsic implications, we've just covered a few of those. Primarily, we're going to be thinking about UVA and UVB rays, because as we know, this is the vast cause, the majority cause of skin aging that we know of. Not only that, but you've got pigmentation that occurs from here as well. We've got DNA damage, which is going to denature the skin from the inside out as well. The skin naturally has some source of radiation protection, but by no means enough. So that is why we need to have other products on and in and around the skin that are going to help with that. And we know what that is, that's SPF. So that should be the first thing that we are implementing on the skin every single day on all areas of exposed skin. Not sure if any of you guys saw, I was talking on the ITV news just the other day about sun protection. So important. We are in the middle of melanoma May right now. That's my cat, if you can hear him, I apologise. Melanoma may, this is something that we recognise in this industry, so important to raise awareness around these extrinsic factors that we can help prevent. So by slapping that SPF on our stratum corneum, then we are going to help prevent that damage. UVA primarily is for aging of the skin, UVB is for burning, but there is conflicting evidence around that at the moment. So do have a little delve into that if you want to read into it a little bit more. But ultimately, any UV ray is going to cause damage to the skin. So super important that we are looking after that. 90%. Does anybody know what that number means? So that signifies the amount of up to 90%. And again, it's conflicting when you read different reports. But up to 90% of the reason our skin ages is preventable, which is crackers. I talk about this all the time with my clients. They're coming to see me for certain procedures. They can be quite invasive when they come and see me and they want these procedures. But let's just take a step back for a minute and think about how, what, and why this process has occurred. What have you done to look after your skin in the first place? Okay, 90% of it is preventable. So skin aging, we really need to step up a little bit. And we're going to start with the stratum corneum because it is the first area that we can really educate our clients to think about that protective layer, that barrier, that defense against the world. And how can they protect, how, what, and where are they protecting this? Okay, this is really, really good content that you can utilize for your clients, whether it's advertising, whether it's marketing. You can talk about the layers of the skin and how important it is to protect them. So the skin's outermost layer and interface with the outside world is now recognized as a barrier that prevents unwanted materials from entering and that excessive loss of water from exiting the body. That is called transepidermal water loss, moisture loss. So how do we keep that moisture in? We're going to learn about that just now as we go through this evening. But you may see it termed as TEWL, transepidermal water loss. So you may see the telltale signs are on, somebody's skin. You may see widened pores. They may complain their skin is oilier. And again, it makes no sense to them, but their skin is producing more oil because the skin is dehydrated. We know this. It's dehydrated because we're losing moisture from the inside. We're losing moisture from the inside because the very first layer is potentially breached and it's not been looked after in the best way that it can. So that's why we're here to help them. So bricks and mortar. The brick and mortar structure of the stratum corneum. So your corneocytes are acting as the bricks, and the intercellular lipids, as you can see on the arrowheads here, they are the mortar that hold it together. So when we look at diagrams of the skin and the stratum corneum, we can see this ultimately. If we have a little look, I think it's on the next page. There we go. So you can see here how we get this bricks and mortar image and where this comes from. It's referred to a lot in lots and lots of papers. There is a reference to this at the end of this, if anybody wants to see it, on how I've produced these slides. So if you want to look through, you're more than welcome to. But lots and lots of evidence around this bricks and mortar. And as you can see from the magnification, this is how we look at the skin. So when we're looking at these animations, it's all good for me. That's great. But I need to sometimes see the microscopic images to really kind of get it in my head. And if that helps you, then even better. So we're going to be focusing on this very top layer here over the next few slides, okay? And don't worry, this is going to keep coming up so you can pop up and see it. And as you can see, there is a key to your right-hand side as well. So we're going to start with the corneocyte. So what is the corneocyte? What's she talking about, this bricks and mortar? The corneocyte is stacked of up to 18 to 20 layers, depending on the anatomical location within the body. So where are we talking about? I don't know the exact number for the face, and it will depend on the individual as well, of course, and their genetic makeup as well. But around 18 to 20 layers, depending on the anatomy. And this is providing that physical barrier. So these corneocytes, as you can see here, this is the key, and your corneocyte is at the top here. Okay, So you can see these corneocytes. What's happening here? Why are they hanging off here? So this is delamination. So this is what happens. The skin from the bottom up, this is the dermis here, the live part, it's working its way up. So we're removing those dead skin cells, which are your corneocytes at the top layer of that stratum corneum. Okay, so these are there to provide that physical barrier to the skin. So the physical barrier against those extrinsic factors, your microorganisms, your pollution, your environmental impact on the skin, and all of those things that we mentioned right at the beginning. Okay, so a physical barrier. Step 2, we're going to look at the corneodasosomes. Okay, so these are functioning as like a weld really that holds it together, so much like your bricks and mortar. They naturally are programmed to degrade, so they start to work themselves down, and that's where your desquamation will occur. So that's a natural exfoliation process. So these worn out corneocytes, these ones that you can see here, they're just not functioning very well anymore, and they start to delaminate and lift off the skin. So this is the natural exfoliation process. When we're doing procedures, that are going to speed up skin cell turnover and or using products that speed up skin cell turnover, then we're kind of making that happen a little bit quicker. So natural exfoliation takes around 28 days. As we get older, that does get a bit slower, from 6 to 8 weeks potentially in those aged 45 and over, in again, conflicting evidence on that, but it will slow down. So by implementing regular treatments, regular skin cell renewal products such as your retinols, your vitamin A's, your chemical peels, and even the likes of microneedling, you are going to help stabilize and also speed up that skin cell turnover as well. So these worn out corneocytes, we're helping them delaminate to produce these new skin cells underneath. So the skin that we have is healthy and glowing. Naturally, that's what everybody wants. So what holds these corneocytes together? This is kind of your mortar that we've just been talking about. So this is a complex mixture of around about 13 types of ceramide. So you will see this in skin products that contains this ceramide and that ceramide, okay? So just have a little deeper look into the ceramides that it includes. You've also got your cholesterol and your free fatty acids within this layer. And these are there to provide the permeability barrier. So if you imagine this as a moisture lock-in that keeps that moisture in, that allows the skin to function, like we saw on the very first slide, in the best way that it can. Okay, so this is your permeability barrier. This is an interesting one. So these dead skin cells, okay, they, dead, not so dead, because there is still so much going on. There is a lot of biochemical activity that is occurring. So some stimulation that is occurring in this stratum corneum, in this dead layer of the skin. And that's by way of natural enzymes. So lipolytic and proteolytic enzymes are performing their job in that area. So we'll have a little chat about enzymes shortly in a moment on one of the other slides. But naturally, it's going to go around and munch away at the dead skin that we have within this layer. If we then implement professional treatments and products, again, that's going to excel that. But it's important to note that there is quite a lot going on in this dead layer of the skin. So it's dead, not so dead. And that is something that, again, that we can help educate our clients too. So they may think, oh, I'm just going to come for professional treatments because, when I have it with you, everything's fine. But no, we need to implement compliance with home care, and they must be using good home care and quality home care so that in between the visits with us, it's making a difference to this dead part of the skin, if that makes sense. Okie dokie. So we're now at the pro-barrier lipids. Okay, so this is where these words that you will see in skincare products, your antimicrobial peptides, this is where they sit. Okay, so they sit in between what we call a lamellar body. So you'll be able to see this here, the lamellar body discharge. This is where it's happening, right in this layer here. So you've got your worn out corneocytes that are working their way off. Everything else is going off underneath as we process down. So this is your antimicrobial peptide. So this is all happening in one layer, this stratum corneum. This is why it's got its own webinar, right? So this dead layer of the skin, there's quite a lot of activity going on. And this is why I wanted to enlighten you guys to that. So probarrier lipids give rise to the multiple lipid lamellae of the stratum corneum. So this is where it has the natural enzymes and these antimicrobial peptides. This is going to prevent that bacteria that's going to penetrate into the skin. When it's functioning properly, it's going to help prevent bacteria infections in the live part of the skin as well. So a very, very important role that that aspect has. So what is meant by our barrier function? The barrier function is exactly what I've just described. So you've got multiple layers of the skin, the stratum corneum being the top layer. And that barrier function is dependent on lots and lots of things. We've just learned about the various cells within it and how they work. We've also learned about the lipids and the ceramides and how they will impact the moisture loss and the risk of bacteria infection underneath the skin as well when it's not functioning properly. So when we start to interfere or alter the functional properties of any one of these components, it can potentially weaken the barrier. So that's so important when we are thinking about implementing professional treatments. And I see this quite a lot on forums when people have just gone in, gung-ho, they've done lots of treatments, which is great because, you know, that's what we want to do. We want to help our clients, right? My advice, as always, would be to start with compliance and home care. We start with the foundations. So what intrinsic and extrinsic factors have got their skin in there in the first place, and how can we help that on a daily basis before we implement any sort of professional treatment? So on the Shop Beautiful range, you've got lots and lots of home care products that you can think to choose from. It's down to us to be doing those skin analyses and working out what is going on. Has that barrier function been impaired? How can I help repair it? What products can I use before I even think about doing professional treatments? That would be my advice to you. When you do it that way, and then you implement professional treatments afterwards, the results are far superior of that of just starting with your professional treatments on their own. Naturally, I know this is dependent on client budget as well. I'm not naive in any sense. I understand that. But you know, you don't have to sell them 5, 6 or 7 different products. I'm talking about SPF. I'm talking about a good quality cleanser and something that's going to help with the pH of the skin to get that barrier function working properly as it is already. Okay, if we do that, then the results will, you know, hand on heart from experience, always be optimized. Okay, we're building that compliance. We are creating stratum corneum homeostasis. So what this means is everything functioning as it should. So when skin is functioning properly, we class that as homeostasis. That renewal and replacement of cells, everything's functioning. It's got that 28-day skin cell turnover. We are delaminating the old ones. You know, we've got no excessive melanin that's being, everything is functioning as it should. That's when homeostasis occurs. And naturally, intrinsic and extrinsic factors are going to impact on that. So that's where education will come in. You've all said to me a few things that will impact the skin health. You know, our clients probably won't know that. I see when I did the ITV interview, the ladies that spoke after me, it was in Abbey Park or somewhere like that. They were, oh, I just wear my SPF on a sunny day, or when I'm on holiday, I make sure I pack it in my suitcase. This is what we're dealing with in terms of members of the public. So it's so important that we are implementing it every time that we see them and making sure that they are thinking about home care and compliance as well. Educate them to the function of the stratum corneum and tell them how it's there for protection. And it's their first layer. They can see it, they can touch it, and they can ultimately protect it themselves as well. Okay, so let's have a little look at these lamellar bodies that we've been talking about then, and where they sit. So these make around 20% of the cell volume. Okay, so the lamellar body have a central role in the formation on the permeability of antimicrobial barriers. So if we go back to here, we can see the lamellar body and the discharge of such is within this layer here, and that's doing what it needs to do. So it's helping keep the ceramides, it's helping keep the moisture within and preventing what I've said a few times, which is your transepidermal water loss. Okay. As you can see here, these abnormalities that occur, these dermatological abnormalities, dermatitis, atopic dermatitis, which is eczema, this is down to a poor function, this poor barrier function, amongst other things as well, as we know. But ultimately, this is where we need to keep, we start at the beginning, we start at the foundations, and we start at the base, which is the skin that we can see. And it's so much more than that layer of dead skin. And that's what I was hoping to get across this evening. So the lipids, we've got the ceramide 1, and this consists of this sphingosine, here she is, and long chain of unsaturated mono and di-unsaturated omega hydroxy acids. So this is why we now know that from an intrinsic point of view, so what we're putting in our body, it's super important. And when we start to think, there's the likes of the protocol supplements that Shop Beautiful have, they contain certain omega fatty acids. So we start to think, okay, I understand this a little bit more now, how and why these are working in this way. Okay, we need fatty acids in our diet. And I see a lot of individuals and clients, you all will do as well, your gym bunnies, people with very, very low fat diets. And I can tell straight away from their skin when this is the case. Okay, so we need the good fats in our diet. Other major lipid components of the stratum corneum are cholesterol and obviously essential fatty acids as well, which again, we need to make sure that we are getting them intrinsically and within our diets as well. So deficiencies in any one of these 3 lipid species that I've just mentioned will result in that barrier that we've been talking about not functioning properly. And when we have the barrier that's not functioning properly, we see that characterized by an increased amount of moisture loss. So we see more transepidermal water loss, okay? Little bit of a video just to kind of envisage what's going on. So you imagine you've got your skin, those bricks of mortar, it's held together. We've got the lipid barrier that's underneath, that's produced by these lamellar bodies, that's not functioning properly because of one reason or another. So we then start to see, like evaporation, we start to seep that moisture out of the skin. So we need to keep everything in, we need to keep it locked in order to keep the moisture in, because we know that hydrated skin, it's going to act as a natural antioxidant as well. So it's going to help keep the structure, the function, and everything else to do with the skin doing what it needs to do. Does anyone remember playing Pac-Man? So enzymes, proteolytic enzymes secrete via the lamellar bodies that we've just talked about. So within that stratum corneum will lead to progressive dissolution. So they'll start to work away at these corneocytes and these demosomes that are produced from the corneocytes, okay? And then we're allowing that desquamation of the corneocytes. So these enzymes, these proteolytic enzymes are going to go and munch away to help with the delamination process. So this natural exfoliation process is helped by the power of our natural enzymes within this dead layer of the skin, okay? Dead, not so dead. It is also important to note that the stratum corneum is actually intimately linked with the stratum granulosum, both structurally and functionally. And again, we will be covering more of this in the next skin series. Don't want to overwhelm it and get too much in the first one and put anybody off, but hopefully, these are going to be available, I think, on a replay as well on YouTube eventually. So when you do watch the one on granulosum, because we've got one more in between, then you can watch this back as well and think, right, so it starts to then draw a picture and build it all together for you. So barrier repair, how are we going to do this? As the skin's barrier is constantly exposed to changing environmental stressors, which we talked about in the very first slide. Do you know what? Most, not all, but most of which we can control, okay? So we really need to think about how we can help our client control these environmental stressors. We do that with education, we do that with home care, we do that with compliance. The stratum corneum and underlying epidermis must constantly be sensing and responding to these diverse stimulations. So it's going to affect, but if we don't address this top layer, this barrier, then everything else underneath is naturally going to be affected. So we need to start at the top every single time. What is going on? How can we help our client? Both topically at home, intrinsically, what are we thinking about? And these professional treatments that we can offer as well. we're naturally going to start with home care and prevention over invasive treatments. We should be doing this already. Again, I understand it's down to patient budget, and sometimes they will just want the professional treatments, but then it's down to us to explain to them that we need that integrated approach to get the best results. We want to protect, we want to correct, in order of which I would always go for protection and then your correction, okay? Or protection and correction at the same time, ultimately. Protection, prevention, protection. We're going to fix the foundations first and foremost. And this happens a lot, you know, when people come see me for injectables in my aesthetic clinic. I pretty much won't do them until we've set the foundations and we've got a good skincare regimen, because at the end of the day, and I do the same with you know, with certain peels and certain procedures that I do, because in my opinion and from my experience, we need to set the foundations first. And it's rendered pretty much not pointless, that's a strong word, but if we're not implementing the foundations, then your results, they're not going to be optimized in the best way that they can. And I like to sleep at night and not get bothered. And usually if we've done it this way, clients are super, super happy, and they just keep getting better and better the more that they come back for the procedures, and they're still applying things morning and night to make a difference to their skin as well. So although the skin has many barrier properties, the two most important are creating a barrier against the movement of water and the electrolytes. So that's your permeability barrier. This is by your lamellar complexes that we learnt about, and those that are going to help prevent those microorganisms, that antimicrobial barrier as well. Both of these barriers, so your permeability barrier and your antimicrobial barrier, so the one that keeps the moisture in, it keeps the bacteria out. These are primarily within the dead layer of the skin, being the stratum corneum. This is the layer of the epidermis. There's quite a lot going on in there. And this is a layer, again, that our clients can see, and one that is down to us to help educate them to do something about. So let's revert to the very first slide again. Functions of normal skin. Mechanical and chemical barrier. Prevents fluid loss and that intracellular lipid moisture loss. We know where that comes from now, right? Because we've learned about the stratum corneum. That's going to come from the lamellar bodies, okay? Defense against microorganisms, same layer. These lipids that are produced by these essential fatty acids, your cholesterol, and your essential oils that are underneath there, essential acids that are underneath there, are going to act as a defense against your microorganisms as well. So if they aren't there for whatever reason, and we've got a breach in that lipid layer, then that's when we start to have malfunctioning skin. The rest of those things really we're pretty much going to be covering over the next course of the skin series. I don't want to overwhelm you this evening, and I do hope you've had a strong coffee before this, and I do hope you've taken something out of it. But the main thing for this, the stratum corneum, it's going to be prevention. We need to prevent further damage to this area. How are we going to do that? We're going to use potentially professional treatments. I absolutely love the Bio-Repeal product. They've just introduced a procedure option as well. Would I do this straight away, or would I get them on home care? Hopefully you've taken from today that Annette will probably get them on home care first. We should all be doing this. We shouldn't be doing any sort of professional treatments until they've purchased some SPF and some protective home care from us, or at least show us that they have these preventative measures. What percentage of skin aging is preventable? We've learned that already today, up to 90%. So 90% of damage to that stratum corneum and the layers underneath is preventable. So we can use the powers that be it social media and our marketing, our websites, our clinics, our salons, our windows, our posters, whatever it is that we have up. We can help educate our clients the fact that compliance is key, and it will make a difference if we are implementing good home care as well. Educate them to the science of their skin. We're preventing to protect, and we're educating to eliminate. In my head, I'm thinking, if this works, then in 20 years' time, people are going to be coming to clinics with hardly any lines and wrinkles. And that's the fact of it. Yeah, we naturally age, that happens. But we know and understand more about the the extrinsic factors that we can really help and do something about. And we're starting to understand more about the intrinsic factors, so we can continue to learn and do more about that as well. Okay, so I wonder where it will be in a few years' time. What can you be doing now to correct? You've watched this webinar this evening. Hopefully you've picked up on a few little snippets that you can help teach your clients about. First one, SPF every day, male, female, child, non-child, anybody's body, areas of the body that's exposed. We need to be thinking about SPF, face and neck and hands. So important. So educational content posts, educate them to what you're educating yourself to. You know, so important to get the client on board. I promote my clinic predominantly as, you know, skin science. This is what it's about. We are dealing with the human body here, and if there's any way that we can help it, it's with education. So your educational content posts. I mentioned already miles for melanoma. Those of you, you've probably already done it. Those that are listening, if you're watching me and you've seen me before, the MassCare accreditation, absolutely amazing tool for anybody that's working with the skin. So as we know, that stratum corneum client comes in, it's the first area that we see. If we see any sort of abnormality or something that doesn't look quite right, what the MassCare accreditation will do is help you decide if it's something that needs some extra intervention. So you're not detecting skin cancer and melanoma. You're not diagnosing skin cancer and melanoma, you are detecting it early for them to do something about it. So this is a great little tool for anybody working in the aesthetics and skin industry, must have under their belt for sure. Okay, so do check these guys out. As an ambassador for them, I'm very passionate about it. So thank you very much for listening. There will be a blog to follow up on this with some additional information for you. Obviously my notes from the slides and things like that just put together to make it a little bit more grounded for you, and maybe some content that you can share on your social media and pages, and tiles and things like that. That's something that I wanted to work with Shop Beautiful. You know, so you've got information that you can put out there to your clients about their skin and their skin health. So I do hope you've enjoyed this evening. Do we have any questions? Let me just double check and see. Fab webinar. You are very welcome. Thank you very much for your feedback. When we do dermaplaning and peels, why is this not causing skin damage if we are taking some of the skin away? Well, it is, Deborah. This is, you know, I've literally just written the male skin blog actually about this, because we are in any form of aesthetics that we do, in my opinion, we are causing damage to an area to get it to fix itself. Okay, whether we are doing injectables, whether we're doing the likes of dermaplaning, whether we are throwing acid onto the skin, we are implementing some form of damage, a controlled injury to the skin, in order to kind of, you know, cascade and create some form of reaction to the skin, and encourage that skin cell renewal, blood and nutrients to the area as well. So we are doing some form of damage. You may say, I've seen clients that have dermaplaned themselves over and over and over again. And when they've done that, you know, just a lady the other day, she kept doing it with an old blade as well. And she was wondering how and why her skin was in such a state. There we go. That's what's happened. We're overdoing it. We can over exfoliate, which is why, you know, we'd recommend dermaplaning every 4 to 6 weeks. Peels we can do a little bit more frequently, in particular if we're choosing the gentler ones as well, and we're looking at enzyme peels too. But ultimately, we just need to go steady and not too heavy. That makes sense. Thank you. That's good. I'm glad I answered that. Let's look in the Q&A. Thank you, Annie, for your kind words as well. I'm glad you've enjoyed the webinar. Samantha has asked if dermaplaning and enzyme peel is safe in psoriasis. Again, I'd need to see that individual skin to make that decision. I think it would be down to the fact that if it is under control and if you are confident and competent in actually doing that procedure on their skin. As always, you know, with psoriasis and inflammatory response, I would get them on home care first. I wouldn't go straight in with the professional treatment, Samantha. I would start them on some good hydrating hyaluronic acid that's going to really, really help. And if you are still unsure, then obviously you can lean on their potential skin, if they see a dermatologist or their GP, and just explain the procedure that you plan to do. I have treated people with psoriasis with certain treatments, but again, it's dependent on the individual. So you need to make that decision from your skin analysis and what you see and how you see it. Okay, but start with home care all day long. I think that is it for questions. But thank you for your kind feedback, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this evening. Please do share that you've been on this so other people in the profession can see that this is an option for them. And we are obviously going to start next week. The link will be on my story in Shop Beautiful's. I think it's already on the Shop Beautiful page. And there will be some links to products. Again, I don't like to make my training branding specific, but in my blogs, I like to put links for products. I've just done the male skin considerations, and you know, it's quite fun to get you guys thinking about how you can upsell these products in an ethical way as well. You know, the likes of foaming cleansers, they can use that as a shaving foam potentially as well. So yeah, all little things to think about and little nuggets that you can hopefully, you know, get across to your business as well and keep things light. So enjoy the rest of your evening, guys. And thank you very much for joining me this evening. And thank you for all your questions. And thank you for getting involved. It's been good. I've enjoyed it. First time back in a little while. I think they gave me like 3 or 4 weeks off. So I was a little bit rusty and a bit nervous, but we've got there together. So thank you very much for having me, and enjoy the rest of your evening, guys. And do take care, and see you next week. Take care, guys. Bye.